Okay, good evening, everybody. um, yeah, welcome to another live representation of what squirrels do when we're not watching. It's just today, actually, we have had two lovely sponsors that made this happen. So I'm very, very happy to hear that, to see that. And I don't know what else to say besides let's get started. So, well, I mean, I am kind of awkward in this case just because it's like the sponsors themselves. Um, I mean, neither of them are in a time zone where I could stream at them, which just ends up meaning that they'll watch this on YouTube later. And so everyone that's everyone that's in the chat right now is just like well, I mean, I know you guys as perhaps more well than I should. And so it's just kind of both interesting and not to have to talk to you guys while I'm doing this. I mean, I could also just not look at the Discord, but it's apparently would it was received well before, so we will just continue to do so. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff. We pick up on September 19th in the year of our squirrel 2599, which actually ends up in human years to be just about 2020. So this is you're absolutely correct. This is post-Brexit London, and you know, some of my readers asked whether this was post-apocalyptic, and I had to think really. I had to think really hard because it's post-Brexit, COVID-19 locked down London, and that's my and this is the city, right? So this place goes quiet on a weekend because nobody comes to work at a bank, and so COVID-19 lockdown post-Brexit London is basically for the city. It might as well it it may as well be just be gone. Like it may as well be post-apocalyptic. Anyway, what are we talking about? Where, for those of you who don't know, there was a campaign for the collective that extended all the way to this area, and in fact, like all the way over here, and in fact cut off two technocratic formations. Unfortunately, perhaps for the collective, it didn't work out, so there was a counterattack that drove essentially everything back to this line. The benefit, though, at least in my view, for the collective, is that they saw that the traditional army corps was not quite as effective as it could be. And so one of the original corps commanders, the one for the 50th Corps, just having some tea, man. The one for the 50th Corps was essentially promoted into a new formation called the Army. And the First Army now encompasses both the 50th Corps and the 52nd Corps, and controls essentially everything on the eastern side of the front. Now on the north, it's still the 51st with its 5 formations, and on the west is the 53rd with its 5 formations. Now what happened was, after this campaign in the east, the collective siphoned off quite a few formations. Oh yeah, and we also do have artillery. Anyway, the collective siphoned off a few formations and brought them, essentially hurried them westwards, like, transferring troops westwards, and in essence aiming to recapture the holy area around St. Paul's Cathedral. And, you know, throughout all of this time, the 53rd Corps was basically on the attack, attempting to exploit, some amount of weakness in the technocratic lines, and that weakness never materialized. And in fact, the 3 divisions here, technocratic divisions, because they were dug into very good and very stable ground, essentially lost like dramatically less than the collective. And so what does that mean in general? Well, it means that the collective is now gonna be very sad. Very, very sad, because we are just about to start demonstrating the counterattack. Not counterattack. The breakout along both the Queen Victoria Street Valley and, which one is this? This is Queen Street, that's right. And the Queen Street Valley down to the A300. And for that, the technocrats have assembled quite a team, right? Like, if actually before we continue, how many of you have read up till here? Why am I even saying this? Because the way you guys have been asking questions, it feels like you know exactly where I am. Why am I even explaining this? The most prevailing answer is a variation of, we just really like your voice, which I know it's not the case. So I assume what they mean is they just really want to make fun of me. Anyway, so we are going to let's move the 2nd artillery in a way that makes, well, I mean, you can't really read these labels when we do the export anyway, so it doesn't even matter. I need to do something about this though, because being unreadable is probably not a good idea. You know what? We don't need any of them. So let's do this, and let's do that. Right? There, that makes it more readable. I like that. It's the 3rd. This is the 2nd artillery. Like, there's no point, because we know it's a regiment, right? We know it's a regiment because there are 3 lines. We know it's artillery. So I'm just going to stop. Like, I'm just gonna keep cardinal numbers going forward. We might even remove the English suffixes from them, just because they're kind of in the way as well. But for now this I'll do. So 3rd, 2nd, as you can see, there's a bit of overlap on the front of the 1st, and that is on purpose, because that is where the main breakthrough will happen. And we should, oh no, actually, before we do that, let's, excuse me. Okay, first of all, I wasn't talking to you, so there's nothing you can say that would excuse me. In case it wasn't obvious, when I said excuse me, the response was an overwhelming "you're excused," which, you know, doesn't feel good, man. So there will be an attack on this direction. So essentially what's happening is, even while the collective is trying to compress their offensive, the technocrats are on their way for a counteroffensive. And so that's sort of... And it's funny, down here, if you actually go into real life and you look around, this area is really difficult for squirrels to cross. Like, it's actually genuinely dangerous, and if you were a tiny squirrel, it is just not something that's viable. And so that's why we are actually essentially what's happening is... Oh, what happened here? Doubling up on that. Okay, there we go. Essentially what's happening here is the entire 4th Corps is now going over on the attack. I'm gonna move here. The third is lined up essentially as 2nd echelon, and what that means is we're going essentially full Soviet on this. Wherever the breakthrough happens, the 2nd echelon will essentially be inserted, and essentially you're just gonna hammer them along whatever axis. And in this case, if there's a breakthrough along at this point, there will be essentially a continuous insertion of forces along the cheap side axis, and the idea is to split the 53rd Corps down, just down the middle, right? And that'll be dangerous, right? Like, ideally, of course, especially from a technocratic standpoint, it is to they're much more about maneuver than the collective is. And yes, I know you guys understand the references to the semi-contemporary military powers that are that I'm referring to. I'm just not going to acknowledge that for a whole bunch of reasons that I don't want to get into right now. Cool. Okay, so that arrow, I find I like fatter arrows more. Oop, excuse me. And so, like, yeah, I just like arrows that look a little bit more... I don't know why I've developed that taste for these kinds of arrows. Anyway, so in the east, all of these... Excuse me. I think... Yeah, so what's happening, actually, why it looks laggy is because the map underneath is actually still a vector data. And so if we... Let me move the window. Give me one quick second. I'll move the window so you can see the layer. Yeah. If we look at how many layers there are, each of these is a... You see this, right? This is just says London, which means I'm using... This is not even a single vector, right? This is a vector group. Oh, okay. I guess it's a single vector. Regardless, the point is every single word on the background is a vector. And I've kept it that way just because when I like vector graphics for when I'm exporting, right? Like, if I really wanted to, I could say export a highly detailed campaign map with lots of tiny little arrows, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I had just completely if I had turned this into a flat image, which of course I can do. I can absolutely. Oh wow, just need to activate that. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely can. I think it's rasterized, right? But I don't want to, because once it's rasterized, it's gonna rasterize at a pixel density that I don't like. Because if it rasterizes at a pixel density where I can go all the way like this, then the file will be just gigabytes big, and there's no point in. Actually, I don't know if there's any point in that. I'm running. What's my memory? Actually, let me take a look. Can't remember. I'm running 32 gigabytes of memory, so it should actually be okay. But this is also an old machine. I don't even think all my memory is from the same maker, which is a big no-no. Regardless, well, okay. Actually, we're gonna pull the fourth. No, we're gonna leave it here. Actually, my boy General Maplewood of the fourth court likes to be in the middle of the action. So this arrow goes away, and we can see that both the 3rd and the 11th are lined up along likely vectors that go east. And so the idea is actually to we talked about this, recapture St. Paul's, and ideally, you know, if the 7th after it penetrates the lines of the 53rd can line up along north here, then the 3rd is essentially open to continue. And depending on how things go in this direction, the 11th can either go down in this direction, right? On the southern end. So you would have 2, 3, maybe 4 divisions lined up abreast, attacking westwards, while the northern flank is being guaranteed by the 7th and probably the 3rd once we get over here. That's okay. It's okay if you don't understand. This is not meant for you anyway. Anyway, so on the far eastern front, there's still some things going on. The 31st Division managed to cross, and this is a very dangerous thing for Squirrels to cross, especially railway lines. And so that was a very brave thing they've done, and which has now put the oh, I shouldn't have done that regiment. Bring back my regiment. Where is it? There we go. Here. So there's now a single regiment in the back. I'm gonna remove the R. You can tell it's a regiment. Come on. And ow, actually, I'm gonna remove the oops. Remove that. It's been 17 minutes already. Oh my god. Thanks for reminding me. Okay. And we've not even gotten the first part of this day over yet. So that's gonna be like that. The 31st will have essentially, through heavy losses, crossed to the south. And now this is dangerous, right? Because there is nothing, there's no real formations over here. So the 16th will obviously have to do something about this. The 25th will have to do something about this. And that indeed means that there will be a counterattack southwards. Let's move them like this, because now the 32nd is essentially freed from having to deal with the 25th on its back, right? So like this. The 25th has retreated, and it is now attacking in this direction, or no, it's just like this. Was facing off against the 5th. Let's draw some lines. What am I doing? No. Should be like this. And then should be red. Red. There we go. So this means that, you know, it doesn't mean that there's no formations here. It just means that the majority of the 5th is actually on that side. We should move this down to like here. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. There are formations there. The 20th is still being digested. It is and it is now simply being digested by a single formation along with like security and all of that. We actually don't need this arrow, we're okay. Let's see what happens on the rest of the front. The rest of the front is fine. Yeah, I think the rest of the front is fine. And so the first army for the collective is sort of retrenching and attempting to find something new, right? Because it's right now it's sitting across, especially in this little hole here. It's sitting in a not very comfortable, or it is a comfortable position because it's, you know, but it's also using a lot of formations. And the same thing for the collective, the technocracy. So ideally, both of them will want to reduce the amount of formations that are essentially locked down in these unmovable areas to generate more maneuvering space, which is kind of what's happening here, right? Like the technocracy was able to essentially just pull 2 formations along with an artillery formation and move it all west. Let's see. I think this is it for today. Good. Or not today. This is it for the first part of... Yeah, you know what I mean. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So we're moving on now to the second day. There are no reinforcements. And so like essentially the two belligerents right now are almost how should we say, they're fairly well matched, and they have other obligations, you know, both, and not down here, actually probably down here, but like not a lot. This is the Thames, if we remember. This is the Thames, and there are bridges around, obviously, but like they're not, shall we say, they're easily fortified. So generally bridges are easily fortified, which is why the initial attack out of Cannon Street was such a surprise. And why that bridgehead that was on Cannon Street that the technocracy used was so important. Anyway, they have obligations both to the west, and essentially there's another power, maybe even farther, probably over here, that is fighting both of them. So they are all in 2 front wars. But we don't really care about that for now. I don't know why I'm waving my hand at that. So what will happen now is actually a little bit different, because due to this situation here, actually let's just put in the situation first. The 11th got broken in that direction, the 1st guards was broken in this direction. And the 7th is lined up here, with an idea of continuing down that way. We don't need this one for now. There was a break in this direction. Yeah, remember I have all of these notes, so this goes away. I actually don't need this one either. Need this one, this, don't need this, don't need that. So there was a break along the 5th, which is now sort of moving in that direction, because it's difficult to cross these kinds of valleys for the squirrels. So the idea is, if the 11th can insert itself in this direction, great. If it can go follow the 5th in this direction, yeah, this direction, great as well. And so as we speak, the 2nd artillery is going to not move, but the 3rd will, but we'll talk about that in a second. 3rd division is on the move already, as well as the 11th. This is getting quite cramped, so let's make it smaller. No, I can't do that. We'll make it smaller with the understanding that there are follow-up formations that are coming, you know. There's nothing happening on the front of the second, because that is a very we talked about it. That is a very difficult location. So the third is now primed to go in this direction. That's a little far. Let's bring it down to there. And then the 11th is, I think the 11th is also going to go north, northwest, simply because there is now a space here for two formations. Like you can have two formations abreast here, and with the Watling Street essentially being the dividing line, and just pushed out, right? And the 5th will act as a flank guard, as will the 7th. And let's see, which way? I can't remember. Let me just check my notes. Which way the first guards has Okay, the first guards actually moved in this direction. Which means, you know, there is room here. And so the 53rd is of course crying for help. Both. Essentially, what will happen is all of these formations will shift left. And it's because, well, I mean, that is dangerous, but the like you can't say pull the 15th out of line and just have it move all the way across, right? Like that would take forever. So the only real way would be for the 15th to essentially take over most of the defensive formation of the 5th, and then there's some reshuffling so that the second guards can then shift over to help in this particular direction. How are we going to represent that? I have no idea. We're probably, I think this will do. Give me 1 second. Yeah, like that. And so essentially what will happen is the second will follow. This is not going to move. The second will move. And then I think we'll just do a big arrow like this. Well, not. Can you let me finish making my arrow before you call it ugly? So it'll be a big arrow like this, just to signify that there's going to be a shift. And we should finish that area first before we continue. So the 3rd, of course, is going to move forward, and we're gonna need a blue arrow for that. Perfect. I really should organize my arrows in a better way. Not now though. So the 3rd is going to move along with the front. Oh, excuse me. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? I'm just gonna leave you exactly like that, I guess. Like that. Okay. The 3rd is gonna move along with the front, whereas the 2nd still has, some amount of coverage to make sure that the 11th is suppressed, that the 7th can continue its move in this direction. Did I remove that arrow? Is that what happened? Regardless, the 3rd and the 2nd, 3rd and the 11th move in that direction. The 5th, I think we're good. Oh yeah, we need to finish this area. I had a brigade for the 16th. Let me just find out what its name was. 16th. 362. Oh no, 362 became 25th. Okay. So then it doesn't matter. Then we're just gonna call this the 310 Brigade. Done. The 16th has shrunk because it's essentially given up an entire independent field formation to secure its own flank, but also the flank of its court mate, I guess you could call it, of the 325th. There we go. So this is going like this. Essentially, the 31st is attacking. No, what am I doing? 722nd remains like that. No, it doesn't. It's down here. I misread my notes because it's late. I do need to draw this line. So, and this is quite a complicated position, just because it's there's a lot going on right in between. So these are overpasses, underpasses, a whole bunch of stuff. Nothing's happening here, so we're okay. And now this isn't working like that either, because this is now going around it like this, which means there's now proper communications between the 31st and the rear of the yeah, you get the point. Let's see, the 25th shrinks some more. What do I think about the NFTs? I couldn't care less about NFTs, and I hope that we don't have to have this particular conversation because it's really boring. That's what I think about NFTs. No, genuinely, because like, it's to put it bluntly, NFTs are a way for rich people to make more money off of stuff that they have done in the past. Is it useful? Absolutely. Is it necessary for this society to store value? I mean, we are in a digital society, so yeah, if you have a digital way of storing, you know, of denoting ownership, that is kind of what the blockchain was meant to do. Oh my god, we're at 34 minutes. We'll have to continue this tomorrow. But blockchain itself is just like great. It's blockchain. I'm happy for you, right? Like it's the amount of fuss that's being made for non-fungible tokens is nonsensical, at least to me, right? Like I can appreciate why people might think it's okay. I shouldn't call it second coming, but like I can appreciate why people think it's interesting or cool or whatever. But to me it's just not. To me, to me it might as well just be. It's just about as interesting as GME was, which is to say not at all, because it's not like the people that end up making money from it are this isn't a democratization of value in the slightest, if that makes sense. Like this isn't a way for the average person to gain more value. That's just not how it's going to end up being. And so like at the very most, oh come on, can you do things properly? Sorry, I'm talking to my computer. Like at the very most, what you'll get from it is certain people make a little bit, but most of the value will still go on to be used to benefit the richest, right? And that's really all there is to it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching today. What am I saying? Download Firefox, don't use Chrome because Chrome's terrible. Even though Google has just released a new version of Chrome that they claim is all about memory management, it is not. It doesn't help. I mean, it's the fact that they tried to do so much with it. It's the fact that there's an entire underlying operating system. And no, I understand that Chrome OS, of course, only shares a code base with Chrome, and so Chrome doesn't do everything that Chrome OS does. But because it shares a code base, that's what makes it slow. It's anyway. Have a good evening. Stop insulting me.